Morris back in the race. His car expired in the previous heat with some suspension damage, but the pit crew have been able to repair it, and he'll take his place on the grid, which is more than we can say for Christine Gibson, whom we saw tail up on the bank last time out.
Morris into his position. Terry Finnigan on the outside in car number 4. So the drag, as they say, to the top of the hill is going to be of paramount importance for these two. Masterton gets in front. Scott will have a handful of opposition, and if Scott gets there, Masterton is going to have quite a few problems trying to get around the very nifty little turbo Nissan.
Ten seconds. Here they go, Scott and Masterton off the front of the grid.
Getting away very quickly indeed was Garry Scott. Masterton quicker with him on the outside and takes the lead as they head up Bitchapave Hill for the first time. A good start made by Jim Richards, who ranges up on the inside of Garry Scott, and Terry Finnigan is also there to keep him company as they drop down into Dunlop Loop, with Terry Shield on the inside and Bob Morris the outside as they go through that corner, and Gary Woolmington being the next place driver as they now sweep down towards Mazda Corner with Steve Masterton in front, and the BMW with Jim Richards now into second place.
Bobby Morris finally manages to get on the track and slot into about 5th spot, but Masterton really was determined not to be outgunned up the hill that time. Great start by Jim Richards to sandwich himself in between Masterton and Scott, but Scott's anxious to get past him going down into the lake corner. Can't do it there. Terry Finnigan right on Scott's tail. Bobby Morris in behind. Oh, he's raring to go, Morris. This is going to develop into a great race. 10 laps around Amaroo Park. Masterton, Richards, Scott, Finnigan, Morris.
To the top of Bitchapave Hill, and Steve Masterton in the Masterton Homes entry. The Ford going through the loop, still with probably 2 or 3 car lengths back to Jim Richards and the BMW, and tried to fight his way back towards the lead is Garry Scott in the Nissan Turbo. Car number 16, Morris sideways coming out of the corner. Finnigan off the racetrack on the grass and rejoins again without dropping a position in the field.
Because Finnigan took the first heat here today, Garry Scott took the second. We could see 3 different heat winners, because it's Masterton well clear at this stage, but still a long way to go. He goes through ahead of Richard, Scott, Bobby Morris in 4th place.
Okay, Scott this time on the inside of Jim Richards as they come up the hill again. Morris just sitting back behind them. Richards still holds down second. Scott in 3rd. Morris is now 4th.
The ex-Barry Jones Mazda RX7 in new colours for Bobby Morris. There goes Masterton. Here comes Scott, and he's got by Richards.
Good pass there from Garry Scott of Queensland up into 2nd. 3rd place held by Jim Richards. 4th is Bob Morris, and locking up a break that time was Terry Finnigan. And he was followed by Terry Shields and Gary Woolmington.
Masterton, a substantial break. Can Scott, now that he's got past Richards, can he peg Masterton back? Oh, gee, Richards is under a big challenge from Bobby Morris. Morris is going to get by him, I think, coming up the hill. No. Just too many horsepower under the bonnet of the BMW. In a straight line.
Bob will keep pegging away, though, on the inside of Jim Richards. Keeping in mind, Scott was able to pass down this side of the course, coming down to the next right-hand kink. And Morris is putting plenty of pressure on Jimmy Richards. He'll shut the gate effort there. Wasn't compulsory that he left it open. So Richards and Morris is where the action is here.
Gee, Morris really using more than the ripple strip.
You've got to give it to Bob Morris. He's a 10/10ths driver. It doesn't matter if it's qualifying for the James Hardy or if it's a sprint race around Amaroo Park. It's all on, all the way. Morris's crew look on as their charge goes beneath them, and he keeps the pressure applied to Jim Richards in the JPS BMW.
Charge is the right word for Bobby Morris at the moment. Looking for a way through, any way through.
I think he's found another line through this corner. Look at this.
He's got Richards this time. Can he close the gap on Richards coming down into Honda? Yes, he does.
A very brave manoeuvre.
Richards up on the inside has got him back.
Morris across the grass. And comes down on the outside of Richards. This will be a late braking manoeuvre on the part of Morris. No, Richards skips away coming down to the late corner.
Terry Shield has got past Finnigan too. And the dice going on behind Morris and Richards. In fact, it's turned into a four-way affair now. Richards, Morris, Shield, Finnigan. Of course, up front, we've got Masterton and Scott. There goes Finnigan. Gets by Terry Shield.
Coming out of Dunlop Loop. It's been a fascinating dice this between Jim Richards and Bobby Morris.
Halfway through, and the rain coming down again.
Richards right behind him, Morris in car number 10. Steve Masterton and Garry Scott have well and truly out in front by probably all 250 metres. Here's Richards, Morris again.
This is where the race is. Richards and Morris, Finnigan and Shield.
Once again across the line. The battle for third continues as they head up Betchapave Hill. Jim Richards and Bob Morris. Behind them, Terry Finnigan and Terry Shield.
Masterton's got a big break over the field at the moment. Morris has another try. They disappear behind the bushes, and Masterton comes out the other side.
Well, Masterton in the beautifully decked out Falcon, Pat Purcell prepared car, the 2WS car, with the wipers going, sweeping up, keeping in mind he's on slicks. Here's this great dice still continuing down into the bottom part of the course. Morris has got back past Jim Richards again. Richards carries on again right on the outside and will try and out-drag Morris up to the top of Betchapave Hill. We'll follow this. Shield back behind them. And here comes Jim Richards back to take third place. Morris continues on the outside, but the nimble RX7 is very quick indeed through this part of the course, although Morris has found himself one out and one back in the manoeuvre because Shield has closed it up on the inside of him. I don't think Bob wants to stay out there too much longer.
Well, he's made a blue there.
In NASCAR terms, that's called being hung out to dry.
Because not only has Richards taken in, but Shields got through as well, and he's got Finnigan up his tailpipe.
Been a great race, this one. And it's not over yet.
2 laps to go.
Out of the late turn, Jim Richards, Terry Shield, Bob Morris and Terry Finnigan.
That's the battle for third place between those four. Up front, of course, it's still Steve Masterton, the race leader from Garry Scott.
There's Steve Masterton. We're following all the action in this race for you, bringing you up to date with the leader and sort of a gap he holds over Garry Scott. There's Steve Masterton going through. There's the gap back to second place. That, of course, is Garry Scott and the Nissan Turbo. And that other scrap continuing about 300 or 400 metres back behind them.
Masterton is coming around now to get the last lap board. Out it goes in the 10-lap better brakes AMSCAR heat at Amaroo Park today.
Pat Purcell and the mechanics will be delighted with that. He finally broken through for a win in the race that mattered, the 10-lap final. Masterton coming down through Dunlop Loop. He's out of the bend. The Masterton Holmes 2WS entry, and it's increasing his lead over Garry Scott. Although far better showing from Garry Scott here today in the Nissan Turbo. Had problems at the opening meeting. But he's been in touch with Masterton in the 2 heats held earlier today, coming down to the late corner for the final time. Now through the gears, Steve Masterton and Sydney. sprints along to Wonderlick Corner. And round number 2 of the Better Brakes AMSCAR Touring Car Series. The final today goes to Sydney Steve Masterton in car number 2. Garry Scott across the line for second, and the scrap still continuing here with Jim Richards and the JPS BMW coming into the last corner. And he will lead Bob Morris across the strike for third. Morris over there for fourth, and Terry Finnigan will round off the top 5 in a very, very entertaining Better Brakes AMSCAR final. There's confirmation of placings today. The win going to Sydney Steve Masterton, second place to Queensland's Garry Scott, and third place to Melbourne's Jim Richards. It was a good race, Gary.
Certainly was a great event, and that after Masterton had cleared out with Garry Scott comfortably in second place, the dice between Richards, Morris, Finnigan, Shield was a real heartstopper, wasn't it? Great race.